So, how does it all work? Let us recall our terminology once again, so that we can firmly understand that we're talking about the same thing. One pair of sentences is one speech pattern, 3 speech patterns are one model, 200 models are one collection. We always take no more than 5 elements for downloading. This is a very important and fundamental point. That is, we always take only 5 models. You can try to take 6, 7 models, but no more than 7. But I don't recommend it. The optimal number is 5 models. Try it yourself and decide which you prefer. So, we will call 5 models one batch. That is 5 models, each with 3 sentences and 3 speech patterns. So, we get 15 sentences and 15 speech patterns. Several batches will make one section of the collection. Thus, you determine the mode and the rhythm in which you go. So, take a printed sheet from the collection. What do we do now? First, we introduce the concept of symbols. Just take a pen and pencil and you make marks on your printouts while working on the models. A circle is a review symbol within the batch. We will designate a plus sign as a symbol of a single reproduction of one batch. And the slash sign is a one-time reproduction of the entire section. And the next very important element is the schedule, which you will also find in your personal account on the educational platform. The schedule is very important. It's practically a tool with which you can translate your electrical connections between neurons into biochemical connections. So, here we have only 14 steps. We call them passes. And so there are only 14 passes. You start to work on the first day. Let it be the date T. So, in the left column we have the number of passes. Then there is a column with dates, the next column with marks, and the last column with examples. Let's see how to work with these marks. Please note that on the first day, when the download is carried out, you make the first, second and third passes. These are like approaches to training in sport or fitness. If you do something like this, you know that your coach will always tell you that you do 5 approaches 3 times with this simulator or sports equipment. Then we have a break, then do 3 more approaches and so on. That is, there is the same practice. So, T is the day of loading. T plus 1 is the next day, T plus 2 is another day, and so on until the end of the week. After a week, when we start the 10th pass, we count down another week and come back to this material after a week. After that, we count for 2 weeks, then a month, then 2 months, and 6 months. It doesn't take very long actually, but it is very important to maintain active reproduction of the material you once downloaded. So, here we have a page with models. We just separated batches of 5 models with a line. Here is the first batch of 5 models. Well, here, if we go down, there is only 4 on this page, so we add more. Here is the first batch of 5 models. And we count down the next batch of 5 models. Here is the second batch of 5 models. Let's say we now want to take only 2 batches for loading. Here are 2 batches, that is 10 models consisting of 30 sentences. We put a sign in the form of a square over this last line which will indicate the end of the section. This is necessary so you don't get confused. So, we have chosen two batches. They will be our first section of this collection. Let's get back to the beginning of our section, which begins, for example, with model number 158. We number the section, put the number 01.1 in the circle somewhere on the side. It is the number of the section. The first digits mean the number of the collection. The second is the number of the section within this collection. Then write down the number of the pass according to our schedule and write down the date. Also, it is advisable to set the name of the day of the week. And what do we do next? Take a sheet of paper, preferably made of cardboard like a postcard or a bookmark or anything like this. And now we are doing the first review pass within the first batch of 5 models. We are not training yet. We just getting acquainted. We cover everything with our sheet except the first line of the first sentence of the first model. And we read to ourselves in English, I have been doing homework for 1 hour already. Then move the sheet down and see how it translates into Russian. I have been digging for 4 hours already. This is how to say it in Russian. I have been studying for 6 weeks already. And again, this is how to say it in Russian. And that's the way we go through all 5 models. We are just doing a review for now. We have reviewed the models in the first batch. Then we place a circle sign to mark that we have reviewed this batch. And now you perform the reproduction of the material, which is familiar with the previous step. Close all but the first line in English of the first model and read to yourself in English. I have been doing my homework for 1 hour already. And you have to reproduce the phrase in Russian without moving the sheet down. That is, without opening the line with the Russian text. You have to say it out loud and in Russian. Then you move the sheet down, open a line of Russian text and test yourself by reading. Already just reading, not reproducing the text aloud. That is, you have to say the phrase in Russian twice. First, reproduce it without looking at its writing in Russian. Then move the sheet down and read aloud for self-examination, for feedback. It is also desirable to do it all out loud, even quietly. The same thing. I have been digging for 4 hours already. Without moving down the sheet, try to reproduce, to recall it in Russian. And then move the sheet down, open the line with the Russian text and read it out loud. I have been studying for 6 weeks already. Reproduce it in Russian. Move the sheet down and read the same text in Russian again. So, we have done the first reproduction and put a plus mark. And once again, you do the same within the batch. That is, do another run with the same 5 models. Finally, you will have a circle and 2 plus signs next to the number and date of the first pass. This means that you have done a review and 2 reproductions of the entire batch. After that, go to the next batch. Here the first batch consisting of models from 158 to 162, for example, that has been worked out. At the top of the first batch we have put a circle and 2 plus signs. For now, you can move on to the next batch, which start with model 163, for example. In this case, and do the same. First, perform the review, then make the first reproduction of the batch and afterward the second reproduction. So, 1 circle and 2 plus signs should be in each batch. That's all. So we have made the first pass of our section. Then after that, we need to do the second pass immediately after the first one, or after a short break of 5 minutes. It is all about the same. That is, you look at the English text, closing the Russian with your sheet of paper, reproduce it in Russian, open the Russian line, and read it out loud because you need to give your brain positive feedback. But in this case, you are performing such a reproduction through all the batches of the section. For example, we have 2 batches in this section, and you make 1 pass. After that, put a slash sign, which means that you have made a single reproduction of the whole section of several batches after the initial downloading. That is batch by batch pass. Actually, further, you will already work on exactly the same principle. Take the whole section and make the appropriate pass. In this case, you will have the third pass. As explained above, leave a line with an English sentence uncovered with a sheet of paper, reproduce it in Russian. Put down the sheet just below, open the line with the Russian text and read it. So, this is the third pass here. It is desirable to make this third pass after a certain period of time, 4 or 5 hours, or maybe in the evening before bed if circumstances allow. And then, every day, refer to this material. Here is section 01.1 that you repeat using this principle. Take a sheet of paper, close all but the first sentence in English, reproduce the Russian sentence, then open the Russian sentence and read it. And you have these passes here from number 4 to number 9 to be performed throughout the week on a daily basis. This will take you much less time compared to the first pass, where you have marked these circles and pluses. And at first it will be a little difficult for you to reproduce the closed sentence. You can even pick a little, so open a little and quickly close the bottom line. But on the 5th or 6th day, you will feel a jump in performance. You will understand that you have it already as a reflex. Well, that's our task. And then, when you have finished the daily repetition for the first week after the download, you have done the 9th pass. And you should go to the 10th pass. This should be performed a week after the end of the 9th pass. For example, if we finished the week of training with the 9th pass on August 25, then we count the week from this date. And on September 2, you make the 10th pass. Once you've done this pass, put a slash sign next to this date. Then do the same on September 16, that is 2 weeks later after the 10th pass. So it will be pass 11. According to the schedule, you are to make some additional passes with intervals of 1 month, 2 months and 6 months from each other. So you are getting passes 12, 13 and 14. And another tip. Speak out loud slowly, especially in the early days. Do not rush to speak very quickly at once. You may even try to pronounce phrases almost like a chant. The first, the second, the third days will be the period of building up your skill. It will not be too easy, but quite a little bit difficult. So don't try to speak fluently and quickly at this stage. Go to this result consistently, gradually. First, do it slowly and in a sing-song voice. During the first days, the main thing is to collect all the elements. You will feel that after the thief's day, you're already getting faster. You will already have such a bound from your teeth. For additional assistance in practicing free speech skills, there are also audio tracks of all speech models in our course. It is more than 15 hours of audio. Each collection is divided in 4-5 sections for convenience. All recordings are made in MP3 format, so you can use them on any device. Each collection of models is divided into 4-5 separate tracks. Each track contains about 50 models, which is the most optimal amount for working out in one session. That is 5 batches for one training session. Each track lasts about 15 minutes. There are 64 tracks in the album. All phrases are recorded only in Russian. Just listen to the tracks before any pass. All tracks have a short duration, about 15 minutes. They are convenient to use as a separate files and as an album in any music application, such as iTunes, for example. All tracks have a collection number in the file name, as well as a section number within the collection. There are also the model numbers in brackets that are presented in this file. You can create your own playlists for each pass from multiple tracks. It is recommended to listen to the tracks before working through each pass of models. Now let's review the grammatical phenomena that are used in our models. There are dozens of constructions included in the training, ranging from the verb to be, all tenses, articles, difference between say, talk, tell, speak, as well as training correct usage of stable constructions such as so, such, little, a little, few, a few, and so on. You can see that the set of grammatical structures is very large. At the same time, we must remember that each of these grammatical structures is composed of 10, 15, 20 models with 3 patterns in each one. Please note that great attention is paid to the training with the interchanging structures, where there are usually a lot of mistakes, especially in tenses, conditional moods, and so on. Just to remember, here the first pass, which we have marked with a circle and 2 pluses. And at this stage is the most difficult pass. Downloading is the hardest part. You need to be ready for this. The first stage creates the primary links. Once again, first we review the batch, then we do the first recall and the second recall of each batch. Then we need to do the first pass of the section of patches and later the second pass of the same section. And all that's on the first day. With such a system, it is very convenient to adjust the work with the models so that the most time-consuming activity is performed on the first day, and it's preferable to make it on a day off, for example. And then the weekly repetition can be performed on weekdays. So, leave the more intense and creative work for a day off, where you have a lot of free time, and on weekdays allocate a certain amount of time for more routine work. Place a reminder in your calendar, then check your mark on completion. So, how long does it all take? We have 15 collections of models, and you can do, for example, 200 models a week. It is very intense. Actually, that's 15 weeks, which is 4 months. Plus, we still have to lay 1 month in the build-up to the words, thus about 5 months. That is if you do 200 a week, 5 months. Or here's a more sparing schedule, 15 collections with about 100 models per week. That's 30 weeks or 8 months, plus about 2 months extra for words. It turns out to be about 10 months. During these 10 months, you are acquiring a skill that you form as a turning point, a point of no return. You go through the stage of irreversibility, and you will not need to return to Russian in such a volume later. You will work out the skill, and you will be able to speak the language. And even if you do not use Russian for a long time, you will need very little time to quickly activate it for yourself, as this skill will be laid at the level of deep biochemical connections. In practice, it usually takes 2-3 hours to activate conversation in the language to quickly restore your skills. It's like driving a car. You may not drive for years, but if you used to drive well, you will drive. And in a few minutes, your body and brain will remember everything, and you will drive quite calmly. If you don't reach the point of no return in the language, you can learn, and then roll back for years. So, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your time. Visit the site, buy our course Linguistic Russian. Here are contacts. Write your questions, your comments. We are always happy to answer any of your questions. We wish you success in achieving the skill of fluent speech in Russian.